great people of the interwebs? This is your boy Rolo Carabello, and I'm actually coming to you live and direct. But by the time you'll see it, it won't be live. It'll be something that has just passed. But anyway, this is Rolo, and welcome to Rolo Runs the City. I'm actually going to run my mouth on a couple things right now, and it's going to be in reference to Tom Brady leaving the New England Patriots. Now, as you guys know, March 17th approached, and he released on his Instagram, and actually not only on his Instagram but his Twitter, stating that he appreciated his time in New England, but it was time for him to take his football journey elsewhere. He was very excited to actually do so, so he was like, welcome to year one, evidently away from what he's been accustomed to the last 20 years. Now, like I said, the news broke on March 17th. He went ahead and broke it himself via social media, and pretty much letting the past know that he wasn't returning. So let's talk about some of the things that Tom Brady brings and the intangibles that he brings to any team that he's a part of. And, of course, he always has that will to win, and he can actually put a team on his back along with his leadership and actually lead comeback drives. He's done, I think he's had over 45 or 50 in his career so far. I know 6 of them were the biggest ones, of course. They all resulted in championship rings. So 6 of those coming in the Super Bowl. But he's definitely somebody that that is a great leader and has those intangibles, something that numbers can't measure. So, like I said, the guy's a winner. He can will his team back. And, I mean, he's done it, on numerous occasions, especially in the biggest moments of his career during the Super Bowl. But let's talk about numbers that he's actually produced. And they're actually very important numbers in reference to the quarterback position and the type of production he displays. So obviously, the man's got 9 Super Bowl appearances with 6 Super Bowl wins, all 6 of them being comeback drives. He's went to 13 AFC title games that he's went to. Obviously, he's won 9 and to advance in the Super Bowl. He's a 4-time Super Bowl MVP, as well as a 3-time league MVP. He's got 541 career touchdowns. He actually passed this year Peyton Manning. I think Peyton Manning was sitting at 539. So he ended up passing Peyton to be second, only to be behind Drew Brees in career touchdown passes against, of course, 179 interceptions. And he's got 30 career playoff wins, and he was the first ever unanimous MVP back in 2010. I believe Lamar Jackson this year for the 2019 season was the guy who actually was the second unanimous MVP. So they went almost 10 years with that gap. So he was the first ever unanimous MVP. So obviously they already know in New England he's going to be difficult to duplicate, or let alone, replace, period. But that's actually what it's looking like right now for them. So just going through all my notes over here. So now that we've put out basically the great intangibles in the production of Tom Brady, how does Belichick become, someone who can actually pick up the pieces for New England? I'm going to rephrase it this way. This is how he becomes the downfall of the organization, okay? Let's look back at Belichick's resume, since we talked about Brady's resume. And I totally get it. Brady's resume is correlated with Belichick, so Belichick does have a lot to do with that success that Brady's had as a player. However, there's been some seasons that Belichick has been solo, by himself. So he had 5 seasons, got hired from being a defensive coordinator for the New York Giants back in the day under Bill Parcells, got hired to be the Cleveland Browns head coach. And 4 out of those 5 seasons that he were there were losing seasons. He only had 1 winning season, which was back in 1994, which he actually happened to beat the New England Patriots. I believe that was the first year Parcells was there, and was able to beat Parcells in the wild card playoff game. So that's one notable that he's had. But it's crazy because his last season in Cleveland, which was 1995, he went 5-11. And his first season back in 2000 with the New England Patriots, he went 5-11, and obviously you already know what happened in 2001. Brady falls in his lap. The rest is history from there. But people say that Bill Belichick will be fine because he went 11-5 with Matt Castle back in 2008. But let's not forget, he went 11-5 back in 2008 with a team that went undefeated, only losing in the Super Bowl against the New York Giants back in 2007 with Tom Brady. So let's not forget that either. Okay, let's not say, oh yeah, Belichick went 11-5 with the squad that he had this past season. No, I don't think so. So anyway, they always have this little cliche about Bill and how they do things in New England, and they call it the Patriot way. Well, in reality, I believe it's called the Tom Brady way. Okay, and so happens that the best player on the team is not making the most money. Taking the hometown discounts, restructuring his deal, allowing the coach to publicly scrutinize him in front of the whole team, things of that nature. And, that's something that Brady put into place for New England. Say, hey, I'm allowing myself, I may be the best player on this team, but I'm allowing myself to be coached. And pretty much, Brady played that buffer. And was like, look, if I'm getting scrutinized, don't think you guys can't get scrutinized. So let's just do what we do. Let's do what Coach says, and let's keep it moving. So it's crazy. It's crazy because since he left to Tampa, they've been saying numerous amount of players have been reaching out to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to go play with TB12 by any means. Sacrificing salary, to have some sort of role and the offensive and defensive system, anything to play with the GOAT. So it's just amazing because it goes to show you that players weren't going to New England to get coached by Belichick and want to be coached by the best. They actually wanted to play with the best, and they wanted to play with Tom Brady because they seen their chances of winning were going to heighten because Tom Brady was bringing guys to another level, not only on the playing field, but, outside of what they do. So, that's something that's going to be missed in New England because now they don't have that player that's going to draw people to come in. Similar to like San Antonio with the Spurs and Tim Duncan. Everybody was like, it's not so much they wanted to get coached again, by Greg Popovich. They wanted to play with Duncan. They knew, man, I'm getting with Duncan, the big fundamental. The big fundamental is just, that's automatic success. I know I'm going to go where I need to go. And that's going to be, chasing championships. So it's the same thing with Brady. The culture is created by the players. Everybody thinks that the coaches are the ones who are implementing the culture. The culture is only as good as your star player wants it. If our player is willing to get coached, then that's going to be a trickle effect that's going to go down the whole team, down the whole entire roster. If you got a star player and let's say he's somebody like, let's just say Antonio Brown. Let's say if Antonio Brown was just a model player, but he was just standing by what he wanted to do. Let's just say he had some sort of a sane mindset and was just like, well, I don't agree with Coach X because I don't like the way he does things. A player like that starts to break a locker room and divide a locker room between, maybe who's, wanting to be coached and maybe for those who are like, no, players make the game plan. We execute the game plan. They make the play. The coaches make the game plan, but we make it work. So, totally get that. But now it just goes to show you that, New England can't play the cheap card anymore because their argumentative point was always like, hey, the best player on the team is not making the most money, so how are we going to go ahead and shell out the money for you? Well, they can't do that anymore because their best player has just shipped off to Tampa, and now they're going to have to pay to play. So now it's going to be like, well, what's your argument now? It's like, look, you need players. They're over here paying $2-3 million. Don't get me wrong, that's a lot of money for us, but like for an athlete, they're barely making veteran minimum. So that's not going to work anymore. Now you're going to have to go in and now you're going to have to show the money. And like I said, the fallout was going to be inevitable. The only notables that signed prior to the departure of Tom Brady were Matthew Slater and Devin McCourty. And I'm pretty sure now they're probably thinking, man, if we would have known this was going to happen, we could have searched elsewhere. If you notice, of all the people that have departed after Brady's departure, after the huge fallout, majority of them either went to Miami or they went to Detroit. And who happens to be coaching those teams? You got Brian Flores, ex-defensive coordinator for the New England Patriots, and before that you had Matt Patricia, who is also a former defensive coordinator for the New England Patriots. Both both guys are getting a whole bunch of ex-New England players because they have a system that's in place that guys like to play for. Obviously, they come from the Belichick coaching tree, but they're not Bill Belichick. In other words, they're not old, they're not grumpy. These are guys that are being embraced, okay? You got Kyle Van Noy, went to Miami. Philip Dorsett actually went to the Seattle Seahawks. I think that's a great look for him. But you got Danny Shelton, went to Detroit. Jamie Collins went to Detroit. Landy Roberts went to Miami. Nate Ebner, special teams ace, ended up going to the New York Giants, which he's meeting up with his ex-special teams coordinator, Joe Judge. Goes to show you, another New England guy, okay? Then you got Ted Karras, who went to Miami. Ben Watson, of course, he retired. And then Steven Gostkowski ended up getting released, obviously being the fact that, I get it, he's getting up there in age, but it also gives Belichick that scapegoat of them pretty much, okay, well, the reason why we're not having a good season is look at all the fallout that happened. So they're trying to make sure they can do as much as they can. Let's not forget either that Deron Harmon actually got traded. They traded him to Detroit. Deron Harmon, obviously, we're not going to say that he's done and over with. Definitely has plenty of the tank. He's one of the best safeties they got. Anytime, this guy was like a ball magnet. Like, I'm not going to compare him to Ed Reed because Ed Reed is definitely a legend. But he had like Ed Reed type potential. Like, he was a magnet for the ball. Wherever the ball used to go up to close out games, Deron Harmon was there. So they ended up trading him. Okay? That I don't think was a really good deal. And then on top of that, I seen a report today stating that they had only about $800,000 left in cap room. So the guy who was so financially savvy, always restructuring deals, and the big GM personnel guy, and Bill Belichick, only has $800,000 to work with. So the only thing that I can actually see him doing is possibly, either trading Hightower or they're going to end up cutting him. I think they're going to end up just cutting him. They're going to eat that $2.5 million in dead money, but it's actually because he was due for, I believe it was 12.45 that he was due this upcoming season. So that actually saves them almost $10 million under the cap. Defensive Player of the Year, Stephon Gilmore, to go ahead and take a pay cut as well. They're going to tell him, hey, we need you to restructure this deal, and they're going to try to sweeten it up. And you already know what they do. Whenever guys decide to buck and they say, no, I'm not going to go ahead and restructure my deal, they try to go ahead and ship them off via trade. They're not going to actually release them because they'll end up taking a $15 million cap hit, which is something that they don't want to do. But it goes to show you that Brady was the cornerstone of this franchise. And with him leaving, now Bill is actually being forced to pick up the pieces. With that being said, with all the losses of the impact players, it's a shame that the GOAT coach, right, is going to end up possibly going 4-12 this year. And the scapegoat clause that he's going to be subjected to is, well, we had so many guys go ahead and go and, depart. We had to make room for the cap to try to go ahead and sign our draft players because they don't even have enough money to go ahead and sign players that they're going to draft in this upcoming draft. And I believe they got 13 draft picks. So, for the fact that they have the lack of production with a less talented roster, scapegoat is going to be like, oh, well, we weren't able to do this or we weren't able to do that. And no, truthfully be told is that there was a lot of, people that were very loyal to Brady. And they see that no matter what he did, winning 6 Super Bowls, being there 20 years, providing great continuity for the franchise, that it didn't mean anything to Bill. So they're like, wow, if they did that to him, then I'm nothing. I'm just the 53rd guy in the roster. I got to go. So it just goes to show you, I truly believe they're going to do to him like they did to Coughlin back with the New York Giants. They're going to go ahead and they're going to respectfully tell him that he needs to step down. And I truly believe that they're going to do this because no coach in the Bob Kraft era besides Bill Belichick has survived 3 or more seasons with the franchise. Parcells only coached 3 years over there. Him and Kraft got into a rift about being in charge of player personnel, things of that nature. After Super Bowl 31, he decided to not come back. Then they had Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll went 10-6 one year, made the playoffs, got bounced out real quick. Then we went 9-7, then we went 8-8, and the next thing you know, Pete Carroll got fired, and comes in Bill Belichick with the via trade that Bob Kraft ended up working out with the New York Jets. And obviously the rest is history. But let's not forget, that in 2000 he went 5-11, very similar to his year back in '95 with the Cleveland Browns, and then he went 0-2. There were coaches on that staff that were putting up their house for sale because they believed that they were about to get tossed next. Then Brady comes out, falls from the heavens, and then the rest is history. But anyway, like I said, it's going to be an interesting year.